All right, great. So hi guys, my name is Purti. I'm the manager for Ielts at Leverage Edu here. Thank you so much for coming to this session today. So we are going to be talking about writing tasks, and especially writing task 2 in this section. Just to give you a brief of those of you not aware of the Ielts exam. So this is a language proficiency test, which forms one part of your application when you're planning to go abroad, either to study or to settle down or immigrate. So Leverage Edu provides you with all the services around admissions. So starting from choosing the right course for you, which universities or countries would be a lucrative option for you, making your application, SOPs, LORs, everything, applying where and how and when. And part of that is also IELTS preparation. This is a test to show to the countries and the concerned authorities that you are comfortable in English language and you're proficient in all the 4 skills which they are testing you on. So we also provide live classes for the same, and these are online classes from sitting at your home from the convenience of your place. You can take these classes. So today talking about writing task 2. So writing is one of the 4 modules which are tested in the exam. Apart from this, we also have listening, reading. This is the 3rd one, writing, and then there's speaking. So all in all, they're going to ask you different kinds of questions and check your ability in the language. Writing is slightly different for academic and general training students. So academic students, meaning those who go for academic IELTS, are those students who are planning to study abroad. So you're planning for some course in a college or universities in a foreign land outside India, where English is the mother tongue or the first language. And if you're planning to settle abroad or live there, then you have to take the general exam. So writing is slightly different for these two. Listening and speaking is exactly the same. There's no difference at all. But reading, writing is slightly different. So today in this session, I am talking about writing task 2. So just to start you off with the basics of writing task 2. So what exactly it is. So this is actually an essay question. So you are supposed to write an essay on a topic that they will provide you with. And you have to do this in 40 minutes and 250 words is what they ask for. Now, this is the minimum count. You can obviously exceed it. So you can go up to 280, 290. In fact, that is a good length. However, even if you go about 252 or let's say 260 words, that's also okay. In total for writing, you're going to get 60 minutes of time, so 1 hour. And because there are 2 tasks, so 40 minutes is given for this and 20 minutes for task 1. And now there are 2 ways of taking the exam as well. You can either go for the paper-based test or the computer-based test. Currently, a lot of computer-based test centers are open, but eventually, of course, paper-based tests will be. If a lot of you are planning for, let's say, the January intake or May or September next year, so then you can easily take up any that you are comfortable with. So when it comes to writing, you'll be typing your answers if you go for the computer delivered test, and you'll be writing it on a piece of paper that they provide you if you go for the pen and paper based test. But the kinds of questions that they'll give you is the same. And there are a couple of pros and cons when it comes to, paper based or computer based tests, but just talking about the writing section. So if you feel that, your handwriting is not, let's say, that good or not legible, then definitely try not taking that risk, because otherwise there's no marks given or cut for handwriting. But if there's a word which the examiner is not able to understand, so there's always that risk that your marks can be cut because of that. So that's one criteria that you have to keep in mind. Then because now that there are certain words that you need to write. So if you're going for the computer-based test, then the word count also appears on the screen. So you would know exactly how many words you have written, and that you are exceeding the word limit, at least the minimum part of it. Whereas for paper-based test, you have to approximately count it. So, counting the number of words in the first sentence and then multiplying it with the number of lines that you have. The examiners also do the same thing. So you don't need to have counted one word at a time and ensuring that you're having that met that criteria, but they also do that. Approximately it should be above 250, but if you see that the total is coming out to be, let's say, 240 even for that approximate total, so at least add a couple of lines so that don't take that risk of ever having less words. They do penalize you for that. Okay, so again, 40 minutes is also the recommended length. You can also spend more, but the first task also requires some time, and you have to only write 150 words there. So you wouldn't really need to, spend a lot of time in task one. So this part, task 2, the essay, is the same for general training and academic students. And because it's an essay, so there's a structure that they are expecting you to write it in. This is the same as otherwise also that we in English write an essay. So introduction, body paragraphs, and then conclusion. But with IELTS, definitely you have to strictly follow the structure. Otherwise, chances are that in fact, you will not go beyond 5.5 or 6 if you mess up with the structure, which I will talk about. We'll give you an example of the same as well in the couple of minutes from now. And in task 1, you are not expected to, especially for academic students, you are not expected to give your opinions or reasons for something. But in task 2, you are supposed to, whatever type of essay that they ask you, you're supposed to explain your ideas around it, give examples, give supporting ideas, and they are checking basically your ability to do that, along with, of course, grammar, vocab, punctuation, spelling, all of that. But they want to see if you are able to talk about this, whatever question, this topic, this theme that they are giving you, which is always something which is social. They're not be giving you very dedicated or specific topics around various fields or particular themes, but social topics which everyone has a general idea about. But of course, while preparing, we go through a lot of topics and ensuring that even if there's something that we don't have an idea of, we can discuss those points so that you don't get any shocks in the real exam. Okay, now in task 2, there is no right or wrong answer because it's very subjective. So in listening and reading, you guys would get one correct answer. You have one possibility only. But in writing, there isn't. In speaking, there isn't. So as long as you are on the topic, of course, you are not digressing from it, you would be able to get a good score irrespective of your opinions. So they're not checking your ideas or something, or what thought process you hold, rather how you are presenting it. So just the language aspect is checked. When it comes to the essay, how you are structuring the essay, how you are organizing your thoughts, all of that would be checked, but not your opinion. So don't worry about being assessed or judged on that. So then how do they mark you? On what basis do they give you these criteria? So these are the 4 descriptors that officially IELTS check you on. So that's task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and finally grammar range and accuracy. So just I will explain all of these. This is the kind of the most vital part of knowing when it comes to writing your answer, because you have to know how they will assess you. So if you don't give them that, so definitely you're not going to get a good band. But if you give them all of these, you will score higher. So just telling you how your scores will be calculated before we actually discuss these descriptors. Now these 4 that I've shown you and talked about, for each of these categories, they are going to give you a separate band. So 6 or 7 or 8 or 8.5. So each of your criteria holds 25% marks. And in total, that gives you your writing score. And even for task 1, it's almost the same thing. So they're going to give you a band score for each of these, and then they add it up, divide it by 4, and that's your one task score. So suppose, just as an example I've taken here, for the essay, if we talk about, for task response, they're giving you a band 6.5. For coherence, cohesion, they give you 7.5 based on the checklist that they have provided, which we will talk about. For lexical resource, which is vocabulary, they give you 7, and grammar, they give you 7. So add it up, divide it by 4, and the average comes out to be 7. This is your task 2 score. Similarly, they're going to calculate task 1 score. So based on these 4 criteria and average, that gives you task 1 score. So suppose I am getting an 8 in task 1 and a 7 in task 2. After that, again, they are going to add it up. But this time, whatever your task 2 score is, that is taken twice. It is doubled, which is what I've marked here. So task 2 score is always counted twice because this task carries more weightage. So 66% your score is dependent on the essay and only 33% on task 1. So which is why in the exam, it's always a good idea to spend more energy and more time, hence 40 minutes on this task, on the essay. So even in the real exam, when you're writing it, start from the back. Attempt task 2 first and then go to task 1. On the computer-based exam also, you can do that. So always, with a fresher mind, relatively fresher mind, and because you have to come up with your opinions here, it's always better to start this first. And then task 1, you'd see either general training or academic. Once you're prepared for it, of course, it doesn't take much time. You don't have to give your reasons for it. You only have to read up the graph and, talk about its key features, which is also a big deal, but you get to learn it, of course. And we do that in the classes. But yeah, so the key here is, the point is always start backwards because this task carries more weightage. Now let's come to the descriptors that they are going to check you on. I see some of you are raising your hands. Just you can just type in your questions either in Q&A or the chat box, and I'm going to take them up later in the session. And hopefully a lot of them I answer while I'm taking the session. All right, now remember I said that, you have to strictly follow the structure of this part. So you can't waver even a little when it comes to how you're writing your answer and how you're organizing your paragraphs. So the first thing is task response, meaning how well are you able to answer the question. Now in task 2, the essay, they are going to ask you, they might, different kinds of essays. You get only one question, but there are 5 types of essays which you can get, one from any of these. And on top of this, among these 5 types, you also have some subtypes, like for advantage, disadvantage question or problem solution. They give you the same question, but in a different manner. So then again, the structure changes and what you have to include in which paragraph it changes. So first is, before you actually get to answering, you need to know the structure of each type of essay, what is to be done and how the paragraphs are to be, managed and organized. But in the answer throughout, of course, the idea remains that you would have to answer to the question completely. Like one type of essay is advantage, disadvantage essay. And a subtype of it is that they'll ask you, what are the advantages and disadvantages of this, whatever topic they're taking, and give your own opinion. So in this type of question, then it's not a simple discussion of advantage and disadvantage. In this type of question, you'd also have to give your opinion. So then the paragraphs change, what content you need to include in each paragraph changes. And suppose, you don't read this part and you only go on writing about advantages and disadvantages. So then that means you haven't answered the question carefully. Hence, your task response scores come down. So when we discuss the descriptors, in detail in the classes, I'd also show you what each band entails and, what are the features and characteristics of each band. But in general, letting you know now a couple of things, that if you don't answer every part of the question, you directly come down to a band 5. If you answer everything, then they'll see how well are you answering. So if you're answering well, that's a band 6.5. If you're answering without more errors, that's 7, so on and so forth. So the less mistakes you have, the higher your score goes. But you have to ensure that you analyze all parts of the question and make sure that you're answering them completely. Sometimes what I often see this also when students are writing their answer. So one body paragraph they write so long while the other is relatively shorter. There's as such no stricter limit on how many words you can write in each paragraph, but you still have got to ensure that both your body paragraphs are of equal length, similar length. There shouldn't be a vast or a significant difference between the two. Because then again, it shows that, you have answered your question completely, answered each part completely rather. Okay, then comes your position. So in some essay, like the opinion essay, they are asking you to agree or disagree with something. In this case, you can either agree or disagree or even partially agree. But whatever you're doing, you have to very clearly tell that in the introduction and follow the same thing later in the paragraphs also. So, sometimes students, and unconsciously this is happening, that they say in the introduction that they, completely agree with something. And in the body paragraphs, they end up writing about both the sides. So then that means throughout your answer, you're not talking about one thing. So then that means you don't have a clear position. So again, the score comes down for task response. And a lot of times it would happen that I see those who are not prepared or those who, don't know, didn't get the right guidance of how to go about it. They feel that, if I've written, let's say 300 words for the essay, or I've written 350 words, or the more I write, the better marks I'm going to get at it. This might be true in some cases, let's say at school level, but not for Ielts. They strictly look at, the quality of your answer. So if your ideas, whatever you're writing, is not up to whatever the question is asking you, it's not on topic, then no matter how long an answer it is, you will not get marks for task response. Plus, even the vocabulary and grammar that you'd be using, it's of no use if you're not writing relevantly, right? They've asked you a certain question. If you don't end up giving an answer to that, so what's the point of it? And that is they are checking that one thing as task response. So all your points have to be very clear cut, to the point answers without digressing from the topic or overgeneralizing it. And not just mentioning ideas, but developing them. Like a lot of times, especially in like problem solution or advantage, disadvantage essay, I'll also show you an example in a couple of minutes. A lot of students, they just list the points. So for instance, they've asked me for advantages and disadvantages, and I end up mentioning 4 each, 4 pros, 4 cons, thinking that, the more ideas I give them, the better I'm going to get at it. But no, that's not true. You only have to take 2 things at a time and then extend it, explain your point. So if I'm saying this is an advantage, why is it? How is it advantageous for that particular group of people? Or what sort of influence does it have on that category of people is what I have to talk about. Not listing down more things. So not taking more than 2. In any kind of essay, don't take more than 2 points. Rather, focus on how you can explain those 2 ideas. So if you're answering all the questions, if you're answering clearly to the point, Up to a certain extent, that means you're supporting ideas, your main points, and you're giving examples. All of that would give you a higher band in task response. So one part of the descriptor. Then there's coherence and cohesion. So meaning how unified your answer is. And they largely check, coherence, cohesion on three things. So one is this clear organization. Sometimes students end up writing, one long passage instead of dividing the answer in paragraphs. So it's a big no-no. You have to divide it, and introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. You have to follow this. There's no other way of going about it. And even then in these paragraphs, it shouldn't feel like, they are separate paragraphs, even though they are. So you need to have a connection between your ideas and all the four paragraphs. So then linkers and transitional words and signposting words are used for that. And of course, I give you a long list with examples in the classes of how to use these words and what are these words. But making sure that we have that connection, that link between whatever we are saying, and that will give you 1/4 of your score. And the third thing, and very important, is to have an overall central idea in each of the paragraph. By this, I mean, suppose I'm getting a problem solution question, which is one type of essay that we might get. So problem solution, or let's say cause effect, is also a subtype of this essay. So they're asking me, let's say they're talking about noise pollution, and they're asking me problems or causes of it. And so they ask me to suggest some solutions. So like I just told you, you only have to take 2 ideas or 2 points, right? So what some students do is they take one problem and its solution in one paragraph, and the other problem and its solution in the next body paragraph. But since we know from coherence, cohesion, that one idea, one paragraph needs to have one central idea. So instead of dividing or organizing it like this, what we do is we take up 2 problems in one paragraph. So this is the first problem, this is the second problem. And then the solutions for the same problem, but one after the other. So then your paragraphs have one central idea, which is this is for problems and this paragraph is for solutions. That's how it is. Same goes for advantage, disadvantage, opinion, question, discussion, whatever it is. So each paragraph needs a certain content in it, and you have to provide the same. Not ideas, of course, that would differ according to your question, but the ideas as in what you are including. So that's coherence and cohesion, dividing it into clear 4 paragraphs. For some essays, there are 5 paragraphs, but dividing them nonetheless, and using linkers and transitional words to show that connection, even among the paragraphs, and having one clear cut idea in each paragraph. Then the third one is lexical resource, which is the range of vocabulary. So of course, first thing is contextual or topical vocabulary. Whatever topic they give you, suppose they're asking you about rural and urban areas, or advertisements, or health, crime, education, family, jobs, university, skills, whatever topic that they're taking, you have to use words around it. So that's one thing. Plus, not repeating your words, not even repeating linkers, and any kind of, because you're writing the answer, any kind of spelling error, they will penalize you for it. Any wrong usage of word, sometimes just because we have this in our head that, we have to use good vocabulary, rich vocabulary. We know a certain term and we try to insert it in the sentence. But you also need to ensure that, it makes sense according to the context of the sentence. They never give you a score just because, you have tried a new word or you're trying your best to show a variety. They'll just see that you're not able to do it or you are able to do it, and they reward you accordingly. So range of vocabulary, to the topic, correct use of words as well, spelling also to be taken care of is what entails in vocab. Plus, another thing is paraphrasing. This means that you cannot repeat the words of the question. So, of course, you talk about the same thing, but using synonyms. So, the first step we actually take before we actually get to the writing part is to brainstorm ideas. At that point, you have to analyze what sort of vocabulary is being used and how can I tell the same thing in different words. And of course, in the classes, in the live classes by Leverage Edu, we provide you with each and every step. Before you actually get to the writing part, there's this whole area of planning which you have to do and what to do in that part, and then how to write and each paragraph and how to edit and check it. There are a certain number of steps involved, and we go accordingly in the classes as well. And finally is grammar. So there are two parts of grammar. One is that you use a range of sentences and then of course use it accurately, correctly. Range of sentences, so mostly you use present, past tense, but sometimes future tense also. And while using these different types of sentence structures as well. So once you see in the descriptors, and we talk about it in the first writing class, you'd see that, in order to achieve a 7, you need to have a variety of complex sentences. So if you're using a mix of simple and complex, that's straight away a band 6 in grammar, of course. So I will, of course, provide you with a long list of different sentence structures you have. So subordinate clauses, relative clauses, conditional sentences, modal, and not just these like names of these technical terms, but what do they mean and how to use them. And we talk about grammar and sentence structures also that you have to use, because very clearly band 7 or above, we are only getting if we do use complex sentences and a variety of them. Again, repetition of words or sentences both are to be avoided. And so then this becomes our checklist for writing task 2. It's very simple. If we keep a check on all of these, we are getting a 7, 7.5, or even an 8. If we don't, any kind of errors, either in the structure, organization, language, sentences, vocab, punctuation as well. So commas, semicolons, capital letter, full stops, any kind of errors that brings down your score. So all we learn in the class is how to adhere to these very strict rules that they have. So, of course, while the live classes would go on, some parts of it you would write on the spot and send it to me for checking. And then full answers you'll do later on, and I'll check and give you feedback. Even after the classes are over, this service doesn't stop. So you can keep sending your answers, check them, send your answers for feedback. And that's, writing task 2. Moving on to the structure of the essay, and let's discuss one type of essay, and I'll give you the sample of it, and we'll discuss some problem areas as well. Okay, so like we know now, it's introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. So there are specific things which needs to go in each paragraph. So starting with the introduction, it comprises of 2 types of sentences. One is the paraphrase of the question, which is a background statement. So you tell the question in some other words. And then is giving your opinion. What are you going to do in the essay? Then we have the body paragraphs. Depending on the kind of essay you're getting, it's either 2 or 3 paragraphs. Mostly you have 2 body paragraphs, but there are some cases where you get 3 as well. And of course, we discuss it in the live class. And then we have the conclusion, where we rephrase whatever we have already said throughout the essay. So restating our opinion, and nothing new has to be added in the conclusion, no other new point. And then we finish off with adding a suggestion or a recommendation. This is optional. If you want to do it, sometimes students say that they are not able to fulfill their word limit or so on and so forth. But definitely a good idea to do it. But if not, they don't cut marks for this part. So this is optional. Now telling you, for each paragraph separately, I see some of you are raising your hands. If you can just type your queries on the chat box, and I'll deal with them just after I show you when we discuss the sample. Okay, so introduction, like I said, 2 sentences are there, not more than that. The first is the paraphrase of the question. So this means you're telling the same sentence which they have given you in the question, but in different words. And this is only 1 line long. You don't have full stops in between. You can't give, remember, too many simple sentences or simple sentences at all. So background statement, which is telling the question in some other words, is always 1 sentence long. And the second statement is the thesis statement, where you tell your opinion. So suppose you're getting the opinion question, agreement, disagreement. So you have to tell in the introduction itself that this is what you side with, and this is what you're going to talk about. Don't say in the essay that, my opinion will be discussed later, or I will elaborate on my point of view later, or in the body paragraphs, or in the essay further. Or you'd be surprised to know, but there have been answers like, please read further to know my opinion. Nothing of this sort. Don't leave them in vague, or don't give these vague sentences. Don't leave them guessing for what you're going to stand for. Tell them very clearly that, in my opinion, I completely agree with the statement, I completely disagree with the statement, or I partially agree with the statement. Either you can go with, using personal pronouns I, or you can always say this essay. Like this essay agrees with the fact, this essay completely agrees with the statement. Go like this. It's a bit more formal way of writing rather than saying I or in my opinion. But no matter what language you're using, you need to give your opinion very, very clearly in the introduction and follow up with the same in the body paragraphs also. Then in the body paragraphs, depending on what your type of essay, the content ideas, of course, would differ, but the structure doesn't. The structure is that the first sentence in body paragraphs that you write is called the topic sentence, the main idea that you're taking. So for instance, if it is about advantages, disadvantages, so don't give a generic explanation or a statement like, nowadays, this is increasing, it has effects on people. Then you're giving an example, and then you're stating the main advantage. Never do that. Remember, to the point answers, especially in your body paragraphs, the first statement has to be the main point that you're taking. So, like if it's an advantage, disadvantage essay, so, whatever the topic is, so this has multiple or numerous advantages. Firstly, this, and then you state what the advantage is, and then you go on explaining it with supporting ideas, with examples. But do not start with a generic statement or an example first. Same is for the second body paragraph, disadvantages, or let's say problem solution, or even agreement, disagreement, opinion question. Whatever type of essay, you have to follow this if you want band 7 or above. And then there's the conclusion. Now this, remember, is rephrasing whatever we have mentioned in the entire essay or body paragraphs mainly, and then finishing off with a suggestion. So now for the purpose of explaining a bit more clearly, I've taken this one type of essay that you get. This is called the direct question essay, or sometimes they also call it as two-part question. So something like this, they'll always give you a background statement. Companies using a variety of methods to improve the sales of their products. Then they ask you 2 questions based on that. The first one, what are those methods? And the second one is, which is the most effective one? So always in direct questions, they'll ask you 2 questions. So there are 2 parts which then make up your body paragraphs. So direct question always has 4 body paragraphs. You can't write 3, you can't write 5 on your own. Strictly follow it. So in the first body paragraph, you will discuss two methods by which companies try to sell their products or boost their sales. Not more than that, not less than that either. So always two parts in which whatever related to the question, 2 points. And then in the next body paragraph, you have to talk about which is the most effective one. Now, again, the answers could be anything. You can say newspaper commercials, billboards, or let's say social media, online ads, Google ads, or pamphlets offering discounts, getting feedback, any which way in. There are so many ways in which people try to improve their sales. So you again remember they're not checking you on the content. So any two ideas which are coming to your mind immediately, and then focus on how you can explain it better. Don't focus on some unique points or something different that you would like to take. They don't give you marks on that, right? So why go for it? Take the most obvious ones, don't waste your time in that, and then how you present it better. What sort of language you would have, focus on that. So just to show you the structure of the answer and as a sample. So first, introduction, wherein the first sentence is how you will paraphrase the question. So telling the question, but in different words, one sentence long. So organization apply many different approaches to sell more goods. Again, this is one way in which you can do it. There could be multiple ways. This is the paraphrase. After that, you will tell what you will do in the essay. This becomes your thesis statement. Now here, because it is not an opinion question, it is not a discussion question, not an advantage, disadvantage. So you will not use that language. You'll use the language of what they're asking you. So the first thing they're asking you is which are the two methods. So that is what you'll tell. So this essay will, again, instead of saying I will, you can do that. That's not wrong, but this is more formal. And it is a formal essay. So this essay will elaborate on how using negative feedback from clients. This is my first way, which I'm talking about. And having strict quality control. This is my second way, or some of the ways in which they do this. This as in selling more products, improving their sales. So I don't have to keep repeating my subject or words again and again. I use referencing. And then the second part, which is the most effective one. So I think that it's advertising. Now in the first body paragraph, again, remember main point, supporting arguments, and then example. Example also is optional. You don't always have to take it, but it makes your answer, it's a bit simpler to give an example and explain it. And anyway, something with examples is always better explained. So again, your body paragraph first line is your main point that you're going to take, which is negative feedback is a process used by businesses to judge their products through the opinions of others. So this is my first point which I'm talking about, and then I go on explaining it. And they've also talked about questionnaires and how they do it. And then I'm saying, in addition to this, this is my second point. So this is my second point that I am taking. So which is why I'm saying in addition to this. And remember linkers. So before my second point, furthermore, try not to say also or and. This makes your writing a bit more casual. So going for the formal linkers. So in addition, additionally, furthermore, moreover, and then you're taking the second point, or secondly, and then finishing off with an example as well. So again, remember what your point is doesn't matter as long as you give the main point, explain it, and then furnish with an example is also a good way of writing. All right, then my second body paragraph, which is my second point, which was the most effective one, and I talked about advertisements. So that's what I'd say, and I'm just writing it in a more in a complex sentence using although. So this and this, these are the two ways in which people boost their sale. But the best method is advertising. This is my main central point, and then I go on explaining it. And in the end, again, relevant to the point example without giving any general statement like that. In the end, conclusion. So now here I've not taken a recommendation, but of course it could be added using a modal sentence. So, should or must, using modal verbs. Always starting your conclusion with the phrase in conclusion, and just telling the same thing that you have talked about in the body paragraphs. You don't have to include anything extra, but yes, avoid giving any new idea or using the same words that you've done in the answer. And that's it. This makes up your 7+ answer. Good structure, clear cut, overall one central idea, vocabulary varied, good sentence structures, no errors in punctuation, no errors in spelling or usage of word, and using linking words, having a clear cut explanation as well. You have developed your answer, fulfilled the word limit. That's your writing task 2. Okay, so telling you again, in case those of you have joined late, you have missed it. So Leverage Edu is also providing you with live classes. This was just one, glance, one peep into what one type of essay there is. Like I've told you, there are 5 types with sub parts as well. So that can be a daunting task. And to be honest, writing is. So which is why you need help and that, guidance and feedback on what you are doing right and wrong and how to improve and get to that score. So you can refer to these. Is it compulsory to write 4 paragraphs when answering direct question essay? Yes. Compulsory, because remember, we have to follow that structure. So suppose if, like I've taken 2 effective methods of advertising, I cannot go on changing the paragraph on my own. I have to write them in 1 paragraph only. Okay, looking at the chat box. So Priyanshu, it's actually 250 words, but it's the minimum word limit. You can go beyond that and should go rather to 280, 290, 300. Rohit, so what type of topics? Like I said, social topics. So once you come aboard in the classes, I'll give you a long list of expected topics from July till December this year, and we prepare accordingly around them. So any topic which we feel we don't have an idea about, so in the practice time we can read up on it and share ideas with each other and get to know. But social topics, things around you, your government, health, education, urban areas, rural areas, big companies, migration, or let's say family, work-life balance. These are the kind of things that they ask me. Rishabh, speaking part, difficulty level is always relative. Somebody might find speaking difficult, somebody finds writing, somebody reading, listening. So it all depends on your skills. But otherwise, if you see, definitely not a simple thing. You need certain help for it, but then not a tough nut to crack either. There are definitely a couple of things in speaking that we have to take care of, but you get that with practice and you'll get that in the classes. Priscilla, next exam, actually there are a lot of dates available, so you have to check it on the website. And whichever date is, there usually depends on different cities, but next exam, any date which you feel is convenient to you. In a month, they have like 2, 3, 4, 5 also. Asif, so you're asking me for movies to watch. Well, actually, because, for Ielts, mostly you get the British accent for listening or otherwise, but American also. So movies around it, some sitcoms or TV series also, whatever you choose. But I see that like topical also can be chosen. any which way to start you off with would work. Bhagyashree, not really. Actually, there's no difference as such, the same kinds of question. So say somebody who's not comfortable with a laptop or their typing speed is not much. So they definitely feel that, computer-based exam is difficult for them. Whereas for you, let's say, you feel you're very confident with the computer and your typing speed is good. Probably your writing speed is not good. Or you make a lot of errors, your handwriting is an issue. So then computer-based test is for you. Or there can be issues where with reading, sometimes students need to underline and do stuff. So then paper-based test is more meant for them, and if not, even go. So there's no easy, difficult as such. It's all dependent on what you are comfortable with. So while practicing, I'll also provide you with computer-based exams, mock tests, so that you can practice them. And then make an informed choice of what you are comfortable with. Rahman, if you join with me, I'll provide you with everything. There's no need to go here and there searching for stuff. Said, you can take it as many times as you want. Of course, try doing it in one go, but there's no limit to that. The fees, 14,750, I guess that's the current price going on. Oh, and by the way, now IDP has taken over British Council for Ielts. So you guys can only book your exam through IDP past this month. Priyanshu, it's ongoing. The classes never stop. So whenever the next module is starting, you can contact one of these numbers and you can then enroll. Because task 1, task 2, these are the things, the questions that writing is asking you. I mean, they check your writing ability, so they give you 2 questions. That's what we mean by task 1, task 2. Task 2 is the essay we have just talked about. And task 1 is academic students, a report, general training students, a letter. See, Shipra, like I said, generally we do have an idea because, these are social topics. But if we don't, which is where this preparation would help you. Talking about different kinds of topics so that even if you don't have an idea, you get that. But I've never seen or heard that, you're not getting ideas in the exam. But definitely, that practice and that time has to be given before you actually take the real exam. And like I said, I will share expected questions or topics for July to December this year as well. Ask me, some universities accept your, they give you that conditional offer, they give you time to submit your IELTS score later, or you can submit while you are submitting your application. But you'd always have to check whether, they give you conditional offers like that. Mostly they do, but always be prepared. And our head coaches can also help you with that. So you guys can visit the website. The first session is always free. You can discuss about your applications with experts on the call. Yes, Shipra. So, we have multiple batches. We have a 1 month batch. We have 6 weeks. 1 month is 4 weeks. And we have 6 weeks. And we also have a fast track batch, so which is for 15 days. So if you've already booked it, and I see that today already it's 3rd, so we can cover up in 15 days. And just before your exam, I'll take up more of your speaking mocks as well. Yes, Rahman, if you feel you've already booked it, definitely you can go for the fast track batch. You can find out how you have to enroll, the fee structure, discounts also, and the timing and all of that. Please refer to these numbers. So that is the end of the session today. Thank you so much, guys, for attending today, and hopefully to see a lot of you in the classes and you get this help that you deserve and get a good band in IELTS. Thank you for coming. See you next time.